All right, everyone, we are going to go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to welcome you all to the Michigan State Police Recruiting and Selections Recruit Selection Process webinar. I just want to remind everyone that this will be recorded. This will be added to YouTube later this week. So if you need to or want to come back at any time to review this webinar or share it with any family or friends or anyone that you know that might be interested, it will be posted there. You are also welcome to use our Q&A section to submit questions that you may have throughout this webinar. There's also the ability to upvote already asked questions. So if you see a question that you want answered as well, you can go ahead and upvote that. And at the end, we will be doing our Q&A. We will also be having our panelists here with me today that will also be assisting in answering questions throughout this webinar. So go ahead and post your questions at any time, and we will do our best to get those answered for you. So first, I'm going to start off with some introductions. My name is Michaela Owens, and I'm going to be your host today. I'm a departmental technician for the recruiting and selection section, and I help prospective applicants and current applicants navigate the selection process. So if you've ever called or sent us an email, you likely have talked with me regarding so many questions or that you have, or if you're currently in the process, kind of assist you throughout the whole process. So my hands are in a little bit of everything in the process from beginning to end, and I help support my colleagues in our section to kind of help keep things running smoothly. And today I'm hoping that we will be able to help you have a better understanding of our process and steps that you will take to become a trooper or a motor carrier officer. Now I would like to introduce Inspector Jason Nemesek.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Michaela, for the kind words today. This is a very exciting time for the Michigan State Police, and just wanted to give you a quick background on myself here. As Michaela stated, my name is Jason Nemesek. I'm an inspector that oversees the recruiting and selection section as well as the equity inclusion officer. This is my 18th year with the Michigan State Police. Prior to the Michigan State Police, I worked for the Grand Rapids Police Department for 5 years and the Ludington Police Department for a few months. I've held many different roles and ranks from trooper to canine handler, detective trooper on a narcotics task force, as well as road squad sergeant, detective sergeant, worked in professional standards, have been a post commander. This is an exciting time for law enforcement and especially exciting time for the Michigan State Police and what we have to offer. So excited to answer some questions today, kind of getting some deep conversation, trying to help everybody on this call and ones that are going to listen to the call a little bit later, trying to help you make your transition and attempt to get the state police a lot easier and well informed. So thank you. We'll turn it over to Motor Carrier Specialist Sergeant Alan Osterbaum.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been in the department for about, it's over 10 years now. I started at the Jackson Post, ended up transferring to what was the Coldwater Post. Worked out of Paw Paw for a while, and was in the Marshall Post before taking a promotion to recruiting and selection. So my role here is I pretty much handle everything for the hiring process of new motor carrier officers. Like Michaela, my hands are in a little bit of everything.
All right, and then go ahead and introduce Sergeant Kelly Schaefer.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly Schaefer. I am happy to be here co-hosting this webinar with the group today. A little bit about my background. I am out of the same school with Inspector Nemesek, so we're on our 18th year of law enforcement with the state agency. Prior to that, I had 10 years as a sergeant in the Southwest Corridor in Benton Harbor. So a lot of my focus area was in recruitment and community service. I recently promoted to the recruiting and selection section where I do a lot of the assigning of background investigations as well as reviews when they come back from the field. So I'm the one that review all the background investigations to ensure that an applicant meets the minimum qualifications to move to the next step.
All right, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and move on after our nice, wonderful introductions. So first, I'd like to start off with is we would like to explain the difference between a motor carrier officer and a trooper, as we get these questions quite frequently. And so I want to go ahead and have Sergeant Schaefer, can you go ahead and tell us what a trooper is?
Yeah, so a trooper wears a lot of hats. I can tell you that just for start. Moreover, we are a full service police agency with state enforcement. So that means we can go anywhere throughout the state of Michigan and enforce state laws. There are a few exceptions with respect to our local partnerships. Most of our investigation evolves around criminal activity, being proactive in the community, traffic enforcement, and traffic-related safety issues if needed. Some of our career pathways, as Inspector Nimisek previously mentioned, it's unlimited. So when you look at, have I reached my glass ceiling as a trooper in this career? I can say no. With the Michigan State Police, there are a litany of career pathways that one can go into, especially if you have a certain passion at the individual level to pursue a career and do well in it, do well not only for the organization, but for the community as a whole. So there are a lot of things that as a trooper that you can do and that we do. Like I say, a lot of it evolves around being active in our communities and making sure that our commitment is focused on our partnerships within those communities so that we can, deter crime, number one, to definitely be able to connect with our citizens to be able to solve crime should it occur. And I am here to answer any other questions on the back end. Thank you, Michaela.
Thank you, Sergeant Schaefer. Now I would like to bring in Sergeant Osterbond. Can you tell us what a motor carrier officer is?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I find that most people are not as familiar with the motor carrier officer position. Motor carrier officers are part of the Michigan State Police's Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division. As the name implies, their job focuses on commercial vehicle enforcement. And a commercial vehicle is basically anything having to do with a business. This could be a small rental car all the way up to large semi trucks. A big part of the job does involve vehicles that require a CDL to drive and all those safety regulations that apply to them. This includes, driver qualifications, vehicle size, weights, and equipment checks. As opposed to the trooper's role, which can largely depend on taking and being dispatched to calls, motor carrier officer's day usually consists of proactively seeking out violations and making traffic stops. There are some specific benefits to having a more non-traditional law enforcement role within the state police. Because motor carrier officers specialize in commercial vehicles, their schedules reflect those traffic patterns. So officers generally work Monday through Friday. They have the holidays off, so it's a rewarding job. Motor carrier officers are out there every day making Michigan roadways safe, but it also has a great schedule that offers a lot of flexibility and balance.
Thank you, Alan. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring this up for a moment. This is the resources that you can use at any point in time if you have questions, concerns, anything that you need to do to contact us. I would like to first note out our website, the michigan.gov/MSP-jobs. We try to put as much information on our website and links to help you learn information about each of these positions, as well as each of the step process are listed on our website. You're also welcome to give us a call. We have separate numbers for our trooper selection process and our motor carrier officer, as well as emails. We try to be available to everybody and respond as quickly as we possibly can to help you guys answer any of those questions. And we also want to make sure that you know that we do have recruiters throughout the state that can answer questions as well. You can also contact us if you want to talk specifically to a recruiter, because especially with our recruiters, they're going to really kind of help you give an idea on what their day-to-day job duties are if you're curious about that. So I would definitely recommend that. This information will come up again here at the end, so if you're worried about not being able to have this sufficient amount of time to have it, this will be showing back up when we do our Q&A. So to kind of give you an idea, our selection process for both the motor carrier officer and the trooper position are completely identical. We have 8 steps that you would have to complete to go through our selection process, and we're going to go in detail today each of these steps. So for our first step, you'd have to take the entry-level law enforcement exam. So we use the National Testing Network to complete and take the entry-level law enforcement exam. You can go directly onto their website, and you would just simply click on Law Enforcement Frontline National on the left-hand side. You would then find the law enforcement agencies that you want your scores sent to. And I would definitely recommend, especially if you're applying to multiple agencies, to make sure that if they accept this particular test, that you get your scores sent to them. Otherwise, if you take the test and you want to get your scores sent to them later, you will have to repeat the test. That is according to the National Testing Network's policy. They don't allow tests to be sent, scores to be sent after the test has been taken. So you want to make sure to select those agencies beforehand. Then after you have selected those agencies, you would then schedule for that test to be taken. There's an option to either take that virtually on your own home personal computer, where you'll schedule with a proctor to make sure that there isn't any sort of cheating being involved. Or there is also the testing center, various locations throughout the United States that you can go to. The test does cost $55. There is for this particular test, there is a reading, writing, and a video portion of this test. You do need a minimum of 60 in each section to be considered passing for the Michigan State Police. Every law enforcement agency is able to adjust what their minimum passing scores are, but for the Michigan State Police, we require a minimum of 60. And the scores, once you take and pass this test, the scores are good for 5 years. You do not have to worry about, having to retest. Let's say you test now, maybe you're 18 and you're really wanting to become a trooper or motor carrier officer. You can test when you turn 18, and then when you start getting closer to meeting the minimum requirements of being at least 21 by the date of graduating a particular recruit school, you would already have that test completed, and you would just be able to go ahead and move on to step 2. What I do want to know real quick, so for each of those sections, there is, for the writing section, it's a report writing section. And I'm going to read off a little bit of information that is found on the National Testing Network's website. So the report writing test is given in 2 parts. The first part involves writing a report, and the second part is a multiple choice test. So for the first part, the candidates will be shown a brief scenario on video and will be asked to write a factual report describing the scenario. Candidates will watch the scenario twice, with time between viewings to take notes. Prior to viewing the test scenario, a sample situation will be shown, and an example report will show candidates what is considered a good response. Candidates will be able to take notes and can use the notes to write the report. After watching the test scenario twice, candidates have 10 minutes for writing. For the second part, candidates will use the report they wrote during the first part of the report writing test to answer multiple choice questions. I know that sounds kind of confusing. I would say that when it comes to people taking the test, the report writing, I don't think there's really been any major issues with people on not scoring high enough for that. There is practice tests available that's listed on their website as well as ours. To go ahead and kind of continue on the reading portion of the test, it's just a multiple choice reading test, which is just designed specifically for law enforcement officers, a job requiring ongoing study of difficult and technical materials. This test is based on actual job materials, and candidates will be required to choose a word that best fits in the blank. And now finally, for our video portion of the test for the National Testing Network, the human relations test focuses on using good judgment and enforcement public relations, and teamwork. It was specifically designed for entry-level law enforcement. Candidates watch a video segment and then choose the best course of action in a multiple choice format. This test is presented on video and the items play without stopping. Candidates have 10 seconds to answer each question. Law enforcement experience is not needed to answer these questions. This test is not intended in any way to be a test of knowledge of policy or technical aspect of the job. Any information that may be needed to answer a question is provided in the test, and candidates should base answers only on information given in the test and common sense. So once you complete the National Testing Network test, what we do is we receive them from the National Testing Network, and twice a week I send out an email letting applicants know that they've passed and that they can go ahead and move forward with the next step. You'll be able to see your scores, especially if you take it online immediately on your computer, I believe within a couple hours to maybe the next business day. And if you see that you received a minimum score in each, in all the reading, writing, and the video portion, then you know that you have passed the entry-level law enforcement exam and can move on to the next step. So the next step is the MCOLS physical fitness test. From there, you can go either from our website or you can go directly to the MCOLS website, which is the michigan.gov/MCOLS. You would then select standards and training on the left-hand side, then testing information, the pre-enrollment physical fitness test. And from there, it's going to have all the information about that fitness test. It's going to give you a link to the test schedule. It's going to give you a description of the test itself. There's going to be some links as far as how to complete each of the testing requirements. There's also a physician's health screening form. This has to be completed before you can go to an MCOLS fitness test. So you would take this to either your primary care physician, or you can go to one of those various clinics where you can just kind of stop in and they just complete it. And ultimately, what that form is for is making sure that you are in fact in good physical health to complete, the fitness test. We just need to make sure that you are, physically able to complete these tests. So once you're on the website, there'll be a link to do the test schedule. From there, you'll be able to see various MCOLS certified locations with their testing date schedule. You'll find a location and date that works best for you, and that particular facility will have information as far as how to contact them. So you'll register directly with that particular facility. On average, the cost for the test is $45. The scores are only good for 6 months. So on the MCOLS website, it'll state that you must complete, the MCOLS fitness test within 6 months of starting in an academy. We require this at this particular step. It's more or less that you need to have this completed within 6 months of submitting your application. We will worry about the fitness test again at a later point in the selection process, but as of right now, the scores that you receive from here, which is just going to be a pass-fail, that will be given to you, and the scores are good for 6 months. So within that 6-month time frame, you need to get an application submitted into us to be considered meeting some of that minimum requirements. So like I stated, once you complete the test, you'll receive a copy of your score sheet, and we need you to attach that to your application when you go on to completing that application. You can also see there in the image right here, I took directly from the website. This gives you a little bit of information regarding how they determine what you would need to receive for each of these sections. So for, a female between the age of 30 and 39, they would need to have a vertical jump of 9 inches. They have to complete 19 sit-ups within a specific time frame, 7 push-ups within a specific time frame, and a half-mile shuttle run for within 5 minutes and 59.1 seconds. So that's just some information there. Again, the MCOLS website does have information on how those are completed and the various more specifics as far as what timing is that's available. If you have questions regarding how to better prepare, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. We do have someone within our recruiting team that specializes specifically in physical activity and can give you some pointers and tips on how to better physically prepare for prepare yourself. After you've completed both the entry-level law enforcement exam and the physical fitness test, you can now go ahead and submit an application. You're welcome to actually start on the application before you complete both the tests, as there's a lot of information that we need that helps with conducting our background investigation. What I usually recommend is just going to governmentjobs.com and creating an account on there. That's where our postings, job postings are located at, as well as on the michigan.gov website, which works with government jobs to get those posted on our website. Make sure to read the description on that particular posting. It's going to give you some information about the position itself. It's also going to give you information as far as what kind of documents that we need, such as like a birth certificate, driver's license, social security card. Those are going to all be listed on there. There's also some forms that will be available that are linked for you to be able to download that you will also need to submit. So you'll download those forms. You'll complete them and fill them out fully, and then you will also attach those to your application with your other attachments. There also will be some information reminding you about some of the minimum requirements in order to apply, so I would suggest to make sure you read those. Now, to make sure to I want to make sure to note that you want to read and complete everything thoroughly before submitting your application. So this application and everything that you submit is going to be used for the background investigation, and we want to make sure that you have this completely filled out to the fullest that you possibly can. Because not having information in your application can cause your background to take longer, and there could possibly disqualify you from the process, and I'm going to show you why. So this right here is a screenshot from a last paragraph and question that you'll be answering on the application. It's in the supplemental questions section of the application. I don't think people fully read everything on the application. And what I've highlighted here is probably one of the things that I think is the most important. It says, I understand that providing false, misleading, or incomplete information, including answers to supplemental questions, may lead to disqualification in the process. Even if you think that it is something small or if it will reflect on you badly, it is more important to be completely forward and honest from the beginning, as the missing information that is found, especially if we find several things that are missing on your application, this can lead your application to being disqualified. We want our officers with integrity, and admitting your faults may not always be easy, but it's an important part of this process. And it's important to make sure that you read, when you're going and completing this application, that you're completing it to the absolute fullest that you possibly can with as much information as you possibly can to kind of assist us when it comes to your background, as well as assist your background investigator for this information. So moving on, after you completed your application and have that submitted, it's going to come to the recruiting and selection section where we'll receive your application. And once we receive it, what we do is we're going to send you out an email giving you some information about our applicant preparedness sessions. We have two, these are still pretty new. So we have our virtual fitness training. So again, these are completely voluntary. You do not have to do these, but we do offer these to our applicants. There's a virtual fitness training with Mr. Ken Rochelle here within our recruiting and selection section, and he hosts 2 meetings a day, one in the morning and one in the evening time, and he's going to go out with various workout routines to kind of help keep our applicants stay in good physical health, to help prepare them for the academy once they make it through the process and start going to the academy. We also just started a new water safety program. Now, right now, this is only located in one area in Grand Blanc High School. So I know there's going to be probably a significant amount of people that won't be able to attend that. Unfortunately, we're hoping maybe in the future that we can expand on this, but as of right now, for our applicants that may want some more assistance in their swimming abilities, or just kind of get familiar, maybe they're a little uncomfortable with doing some of the water safety program or training that's going to happen in the academy, they can come to these meetings that happen every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. at Grand Blanc High School. to kind of help prepare yourself for the academy. So after we've sent that email, what we're going to do is we are going to check to make sure that you meet our minimum requirements. So we are going to check to verify that you have taken and passed the entry-level law enforcement exam. We are going to verify with your documents that you uploaded and that you have the MCLS fitness test and that it's been within the 6 months time period. We're also going to make sure that you've attached all the requested documents and attachments to your application. If for whatever reason you're missing anything, we'll send you an email letting you know what specific document, or maybe you didn't fill out a particular form all the way. We'll let you know, and then you can just go ahead and respond to us to send that missing document, and we'll attach it to your application. You don't have to worry about trying to add it to your application and then resubmitting it, because unfortunately what happens is it just submits a completely new application and then it doubles everything on our end. So we see double of all of your documents, double of your application. So it's usually highly recommended just to go ahead and send it to us. It's directed in the email itself. Now, once we've verified that you've got your entry-level law enforcement exam, MCLS fitness test, and all the documents, we're going to send you an email asking you to complete a personal history questionnaire, also known as a PHQ. This is just a test that's going to take about 1 hour. You won't have the ability to start, stop, and start again. So you have to do it in a 1 hour sitting. It's just going to ask a lot of personal information, and this is helpful and used for background investigators. You can't move forward until this is completed. Now, we receive the PHQ from our vendor once a week. Once we complete and receive that, we attach that to your application, and then we have to do a couple more pre-background check steps before we are able to move you to the next step, which is the background investigation. So this is the longest step of the process. Once you move to the step, you'll be sent an email letting you know that you are waiting to be assigned. So Sergeant Schaefer and I keep track of applicants in this step, and she works on assigning available investigators to applicants. Investigators usually have multiple backgrounds that they work on, so the process can take some time because they also have to make several contacts within your application, such as family members, friends, past relationships, past employers, current employers, and our trooper background investigators especially, they also have their daily duties to complete, such as responding to calls, so that can definitely can seem like it takes a lot of time to get your background completed. Once you are assigned a background investigator, that investigator will contact you directly for your first meeting. So they may give you a call and then also follow up with an email regarding verifying a scheduled time, as well as maybe any additional information that they may need you to bring with you to your first meeting. They're going to go over your application, your PHQ, and any other additional questions that the background investigator may need to go over with you on that first meeting. They'll have to go through and verify your employment, your schooling, talk with family and friends in order for that. If at any point you're wanting to know where you're at in the process with your background, go ahead and contact your background investigator. Let them know, saying that you're interested in knowing where they're at. They can let you know, saying, you know, that maybe they have to make a few more contacts. Maybe there's someone that they need to contact that's not responding, and they may ask you to reach out to that particular person to help them speed up the process of your background. You can also, I apologize, got a little tongue-tied for a minute. So once your background is completed, the background investigator is then going to submit it to us. It's going to go to Sergeant Schaefer. So she has to review the background to make sure it is completed to its fullest. Sometimes a background may have to get sent back to the investigator if we believe that there is some information that needs to be updated or clarified. But once it's been reviewed and to ensure that there is nothing that goes against our policy, your application will then move forward to the next step, which is the hiring interview. So our hiring interviews are still being conducted virtually using Microsoft Teams. Once you move to this step, we'll send you an email letting you know that you're pending a hiring interview and that we are looking to try and schedule you in the future. We do our interviews in batches. So once we have a good pool of applicants that have completed their background investigation, we will set up a time to try and get these interviews scheduled, and then we'll send you emails regarding when you are scheduled for a particular date and time for an interview. We do work with everybody. If there's some reason that you can't make it to an interview, we will try to do our best if we have any other open spots that week. Otherwise, we'll have another round of interviews that will happen again. Within that interview, you'll be interviewing with three panel members for your interview, and they'll be asking you questions. This is probably the most important part. We give this information out in the emails when you very first come in there, but also again, when we have scheduled your interview. Our interviews are behavior-based interviews, and it's extremely important that you answer in the STAR format. So I have a little image up here to kind of try and help a little bit what the STAR format is, and there's a lot of information online that you can find, whether it's on YouTube, Google, wherever you want to go. There's a lot of really good information, but these behavior-based interview questions are going to be asked and you're going to be expected, and the panel members will explain that to you also at the beginning of your interview, that you will need to respond and explain what STAR is. So to kind of quickly explain, STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So you want to, when the panel has asked you a question, you want to start off with your response and to set the scene and give the necessary details of your example or describe what your responsibility was in that situation. Then you're going to want to explain exactly what steps you took to address that situation or task, and then share the result or the outcome that was achieved. This is going to be the most important part, and this is, I think, unfortunately hinders a lot of our applicants. We try to give as much information to help them prepare and be ready. I would highly recommend spending some time before your interview with whether it's family or a friend to do mock interviews and practice answering behavior-based questions, and you can find those questions online. Now, after you've completed your hiring interview, you're going to get scored between a 1 and a 5 for each of the competencies that these questions are based on. Again, those competencies will be given to you ahead of time in the email, so that way you can search up information and practice and prepare for the interview. A 5 is considered the best, a 1 obviously the worst, and after your interview, you'll receive an email and you'll know what you received in each competency, your score for your interview. Now, with that interview, we also have that gets added onto a composition score, also known as just like your overall score. This helps us determine, who we're going to give conditional offers to first. So this composition score may include, maybe you've got a certificate at a college, or maybe you have an associate's, bachelor's degree, or anything higher. You can get some additional points that get added onto your total interview score. Maybe you've been in the military, you can receive additional points for that. Maybe you've done some community service or volunteering within your community, you can get additional points for that. Maybe you've been a cadet or intern with the Michigan State Police or with another law enforcement agency. There are additional things that can help you that you've done in your life, and which is important that we get this information from your background that can go towards your overall score, which again, once we get to that overall score, that's going to go on and move on to our conditional offer of employment. So once we've gotten closer to our recruit school, usually about 3 months before the start of a recruit school, that's when we start sending out our conditional offers of employment. With that information, with that overall score, that composition score that we have, we review the scores of all of our applicants, and we start sending out offers to our applicants with the highest overall score first, until we've gained a significant amount of applicants to fill that particular school. With that, you'll receive an email from us letting you know that you've received a conditional offer. there'll also be a link to ask what your top 3 post placements are. Now that's also asked in the application. That in the application is just to kind of help you get an idea of what kind of what post you might want to be at. It's also for our reporting for us on reporting side, so that way we can get an idea of maybe some places of where applicants are wanting to go, but it's not set in stone. So if once you receive a conditional offer, this is where we want that information, because this is going to be what we're going to use to actually decide where you'll be placed at in that post placements. With that, for some of you that may not be aware, with that top 3 post placements, we do our best to try and assign everyone to their number 1, but we also have to base it on department need. So you may also be assigned to your number 2 or your number 3, but again, we work very hard. Either way, you're going to be in one of those 3. You'll know that you'll be in one of those 3 post placements that you decided and chose. After we've received that and confirmed that you've accepted your conditional offer of employment, you'll be scheduled for your first conditional offer signing, where you'll have to complete some forms and give some instruction as far as what your next steps are going to be. And one of the biggest things is that we also link that up with our MCLS physical fitness test update. So this is where how I had mentioned earlier at step 2, with it having to be within 6 months, we make sure that if for whatever reason, let's say you've been in the process for maybe a little bit longer than you would have liked, but you've been selected for a particular school and you need a fitness update, you don't have to go out and purchase and register with a facility to do that. You're going to do that with us. It's going to be completely free. You're going to be at our academy, and we will go ahead and get that fitness test updated for you. You'll also have to complete a psychological exam, a medical exam, and a drug test, just again for all making sure that you meet all those basic minimum requirements. Now, once you've completed and passed all the other steps and the conditional offer steps, the psychological, medical, the drug test, and the fitness update, this is when we go ahead and can start appointing our applicants. So you will receive an email with the post that you're going to be placed at. So you will know before you start the academy where you'll be posted at after graduation. You will also have some information in that letter that will have as far as materials that you'll need to bring to the academy, such also as when orientation is, and any additional forms that you would need to complete, the week before the start of recruit school, so that way we can start preparing your hiring materials as far as being able to choose your insurances and coverages, and adding any family members to be covered at the beginning of the academy. After you've received your appointment letter, you've gotten your materials, and it's about to be the first day of the academy, you are going to be, on that first day, you're going to be an employee of the Michigan State Police. I'd like to bring in Sergeant Schaefer. Do you mind describing to our applicants what new recruits' first day would be like and what they would expect on that first day?
Absolutely, I will. Thank you. So the recruit's typical day starts on a Sunday, and I had the luxury of starting temp staff with one of the schools on Easter Sunday, which was awesome. So a typical day for recruit starts off with reveille at 5 a.m. in the morning. Now this allows you only about 30 minutes to get yourself dressed and ready to go down for PT. After a rigorous workout for more than an hour, recruits are scurried back up to their rooms to shower within a 15-minute time frame and be dressed and prepared for breakfast. After completing breakfast within a certain amount of time, we have inspection. That means it's an inspection of the recruit as well as their room. And so after inspection, they break off into their squads for morning activities, and then afternoon activities after lunch. So in the evening, there may be some activities such as firearms or meeting with your mentor. and including evening chores that are assigned for that week. So definitely lights are out, 2 taps at 10 p.m. And once the lights go out, there is no movement around on the floors. We do have staff that reside on floors just for those purposes. So, and that's the weekly routine. That's a daily occurrence for the 5 days that you are there. You're released on Friday afternoon, evening to go home and you take a breather, come back and report on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and it's another week down, another week to go until you max out on the total weeks of the recruit school.
Thank you, Sergeant Schaefer. Now I'd like to bring in Sergeant Alan Osterbahn. Can you describe some of the kinds of support that will be available to recruits when they're in the academy?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's very challenging, and we know that. Don't think that once you get into the academy, you're basically on your own there. You've made it through our hiring process. We want you to be there. The department wants you to succeed. They want you to pass the academy. Each recruit has a staff member, one of their temporary staff that are teaching the academy, that is assigned as a mentor throughout the academy. This gives someone that they can, directly reach out to if they are struggling with anything, having issues, or really just generally want to talk. Usually they try to meet with recruits twice a week, as needed. Also, we have an Office of Behavioral Sciences. They're available, and they plan out times to meet with the recruits throughout the academy, make sure things are going well as they can. And you also get time in the evenings that you can make phone calls home just to kind of check on things and make sure things are going well back there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So now that we've learned all the steps, and I know they seem very long, but I promise it would be well worth it. We're going to go ahead. So before we move on to our Q&A, I'd like to ask if any of our panelists have anything additional that they would like to say. Inspector Nemesek, was there anything additional that you would like to add on?
Just wanted to add that there's a lot of great comments and trying to answer those, and I apologize for my my spelling errors in there. So I'm used to typing with spell check. Some of them I failed you, so I apologize for that. But a lot of great questions on what post assignment or how far that you have to live away. And I kind of wanted to address that one real quick. The fact that you're able to choose whatever post you would like. The only time that it would impact, anything would impact your choosing would be some of our posts in remote areas, Northern Michigan and the UP have what's called an assigned vehicle program. And those troopers, once you're off probation, are able to drive those cars home. And that depends on a lot of things. Depends on if there's enough cars up there or how many troopers are at the post. So the only time that might impact it is if, let's say that you lived in Southeast Michigan, but yet you decided that you're going to work on the west side of the state or Northern Michigan, that you wouldn't be able to have that vehicle and take that with you as you drove through different districts. So, as the post commander up in Gaylord, when I was there, we had the assigned vehicle program, and any one of those troopers that lived in the 5 counties that was the post and they were off probation were eligible to receive a take-home car. So that was one of the benefits, that you could start your shift from your house and end your shift from your house, as opposed to driving into the post. There also were a couple other questions on salary and benefits. The Michigan State Police Troopers Association, which covers our sergeants and our troopers together in the same association, just accepted a contract for a couple of years. I think it's a 3-year contract, but top out base salary will be right around $84,000 for a trooper at the 10-year mark. And that's before kind of any shift differential or overtime. We have great vision, dental, healthcare coverage. I know that sometimes it's not what we think about when we're young into law enforcement, and I certainly didn't think about that. But now having a family a little bit older, some great coverage. Another one of the questions I wanted to kind of touch on was the continued education. So MSP is a huge supporter of continued education. And there are some tuition reimbursement. Now, it's not a ton. That's always one of the things that we're working on. However, we are very flexible to your needs, and we actually, we like people to continue their education. And I'm kind of a prime example of that. I'm finishing up my master's degree. I had an associate's degree when I joined the agency, and I've completed my bachelor's and soon to be master's here while working for the state police. So we have several other members, civilian and enlisted, have done the same thing. So we absolutely support that, and we want to support what your dreams are for your family as well, of continuing education and working for us. So those are the only things that I want to touch on real quick, Michaela, and I'll jump back into the questions here. So again, apologize for my spelling errors.
Thank you. Sergeant Osterbond, is there anything additional that you would like to add on?
Yeah, and I actually just saw the question pop up. It was touching on ride-alongs, particularly with the motor carrier officers, because it's, again, not as well known of a role. Ride-alongs are definitely available and actually for the trooper positions as well. So if you're trying to learn more and trying to decide what kind of career path you want to take, definitely just reach out and we can get something set up for you.
Thank you. And Sergeant Schaefer, is there anything additional you'd like to add?
Yes, ma'am. So I would like to just touch briefly on our military veterans. I don't think we covered anything as it relates to being a paramilitary organization. Just for our veteran members, it's good to know that you are eligible to receive credit towards your longevity for having time as a veteran in our military, and that goes towards your longevity and annual leave. And you're also able to purchase 2 years of your service time with the Michigan State Police towards your retirement, if you so choose to do so. And just for a caveat in the academy, those of you that receive on-the-job training pay, the OGT, you can receive that in addition to being paid from MSP while you're in the academy. So those are two things that, I think are really, really, good when it comes to our military veterans. If you can get paid out of 2 entities and get the benefits as well, that's a win-win for me. So I just wanted to make sure that our veterans are aware of the opportunities that lie within their realm. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and start looking at some of these questions that are posted up here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this open and read out some of the questions that we have in this Q&A. If there's additional questions, go ahead and put them up there. We're going to try our best to get through as many of these as much as possible. So first question, questions on the application if you have tickets, but it's 25 or more years ago. What do you mark as dates? So I would probably suggest is that it's completely understandable if you don't know the exact date of something that was extremely long time ago, but if you can give as much information as possible, roughly around that time, the background investigators, and we're going to understand if it's been 20 plus years, we don't expect you to know the exact date, but having as much information to get close to that and describe the particular situation will be extremely helpful. So here's another question. How likely is it to do CMV enforcement as a trooper? I do apologize, I'm not entirely sure.
I'll jump in on that one, Michaela.
Okay, thank you.
Another great question. So as a trooper, you absolutely can do motor carrier enforcement. However, I would just caution that there are so many things going on between investigations and other traffic functions that there's not a lot of time, but there are a lot of troopers that like to get out there. And I think that's one of the things that we bridge the gap between. Our motor carriers do a phenomenal job with commercial vehicle enforcement. And yeah, like I said, you have the opportunity to do it, but they are truly the professionals at it. And oftentimes we kind of piggyback off those. Our members that are on our specialty teams, like our hometown security teams that work hand in hand with our motor carrier officers on a daily basis, are a little bit more apt to do that. However, your troopers that are working the road, you might pull over some commercial vehicle for you know what, for speeding or unsecured load or some other violations, but really the freedom is up to you and how comfortable that you are doing that, because there's a lot more that is entailed to the CMV side of things.
Thank you. I'm going to go to a next question. Says, I'm very interested in becoming law enforcement, but fear that using low THC products for calming nerves in college over a year ago would disqualify me from ever being able to join. What would you suggest? So what I can tell you right now is we continue to change our policies based upon what's kind of going on currently within the state of Michigan. With Michigan's legalization of marijuana, we do not require that you can't have ever smoked or used THC products. It is stated on our website as well as in the description of the application. You cannot use marijuana or THC from the date of submitting your application. So if you've done it in the past, that is fine. It's not considered an immediate disqualifier. However, you cannot use it again once submitting an application, because as of right now, it's still federally illegal, and we cannot have our law enforcement officers be using those products. Does anybody else want to add on to that? Okay, so
I can, Michaela, and I think that the biggest thing is that you know, it's required that we not use any illegal narcotics, whether they're federally banned or not. So, you know, kind of just to piggyback off you, is if that's something that you needed before, you know, once you join that application process for us, is the expectation of when you will stop doing anything.
all right, thank you. Says, okay, I'm going to do this next one. I got an email about the start interview process, and there was a link to study, and there were 4 groups. Is there an email I can send the link to in order to find out? So yeah, so that's our standard link that we have with the Michigan Civil Service. So Michigan Civil Service has information for all state employment. So because we're a state agency, they have all of our information as far as our hiring practices, our different job specifications. So what we recommend though is, because there's not anything super specific there, I believe there used to be a long time ago, but to the STAR format, what we usually recommend, and we note it in the email, is to kind of do some of your own research. I mean, I've used YouTube myself. I tend to be someone that tends to respond and learn a little bit more through videos rather than just simply reading something. And you can see, and people will do like little mock interviews, and you can hear the questions that are being asked and how a person either incorrectly or correctly responds to a particular question using the STAR format. They can really break it down, and then just getting in that practice in can really help assist you in getting ready for that particular interview. Does anyone else want to add on about interviews? All right. Next question. So let's see, I am 20 years old. I'm wondering how to kind of time out when to do the application and the physical agility test so everything falls perfectly. I already have my law enforcement test done. So again, like I said, once you get that law enforcement test and you get the fitness test done, you can submit your application literally, you know, that same day of getting that fitness test done. I know it tends to be a little bit difficult. I know a lot of people want to make sure that they are getting the application in a certain period of time to make it to a particular recruit school. So what I always note down and let everybody know is that the selection process in general takes on average about 6 months to complete, from the minute that you submit an application to when you receive that conditional offer and completing those conditional offer steps. It's about 6 months. Obviously, there can be some things that can cause the application to be a little bit longer, such as when you apply. So if we just put a new posting up, you might be in that process a little bit longer because it may be a year before the actual recruit school starts. So you may technically be in the process a little bit longer. You also may be in the process a little bit longer if you submit an application close to the end of our selection process of a particular recruit school. However, your application will automatically roll over to the next one, so you don't have to worry about reapplying. But I would just always suggest if you happen to know a date recruit school, and then as soon as we know dates, we try to make sure to let everybody know as much as possible, to at least within 6 months. Usually anything after the 6-month mark, it tends to be a little bit more difficult to give you a definitive that you'll make it far enough in the process, because there's just a lot of variables that could prevent that from happening. So I would just say always just have your application as soon as you can, and I hope that was able to answer your question. Does anyone else want to add on? Okay. All right, next question. Can recruiters answer questions on applications? I'm assuming do you have a particular question about a question on the application? You're more than welcome to contact our recruiters. You're also welcome to contact us. If you are not sure how to best answer a question, maybe you need some clarification, you're more than welcome to reach out to any of us with any of your questions regarding that, and we can definitely help you best respond to that or clarify anything for you. All right, here's a good question. If we do pass the interview, is there a chance that we might not get into the June academy, but be placed into an academy after? Or are we only in the hiring process for the upcoming academy? My background was passed and I'm waiting for my interview to be scheduled. So this is a great question, and we do get this quite often. There is a chance. It depends, again, on your score. So as I had mentioned about the interview, you get a score for each of the competencies between 1 and 5. If you get all 3s, that is considered the minimum score that you can receive. That's considered passing. And then, of course, having all 5s will be the highest score. So that's already, if you got all 5s, that's 30. Then you have those additional points that you get that you receive from your background, such as the education, any sort of military experience, and those will move your scores up so that way you have an overall score. So if you don't have a lot of additional things that's causing your overall score to be low, there is a possibility that there may be several other applicants that had a higher score than you, and they've received and they could receive a conditional offer for this particular school, and then your application would be rolled over still at the hiring interview step to the next school. Now, what that happens is what we usually try to offer is applicants a chance to, when we go and do interviews again for that next recruit school, you're welcome to re-interview, so that way you can increase your hiring interview scores. We also have to complete background updates, usually at the conditional offer step. But if there's maybe you've gotten a new job, maybe you've completed a degree, maybe you've enrolled into the military and completed military training, maybe you've done some volunteer experience, send that information into us so we can add that to your application, and that could also help increase your score. So if there's anything that you could, those are some things that you can do to help increase your score if for whatever reason you don't get accepted into this particular school and get rolled over into the next school. So here's another question I have. My background investigation was approved and was told to wait for the next step, which is the hiring interview. I'm looking to be in the next recruit school in June. Are they still doing steps 5 through 7 before the upcoming recruit school? So we do still have some more interviews that we want to do. Right now we have some scheduled for next week. Unfortunately, it does, with having the lateral recruit school that is going to start here in a couple weeks and trying to get that process completed and selected, we did get a little bit behind with getting our backgrounds reviewed for our regular recruit school that's starting in June. we will be, I know like I said, we have some interviews coming up scheduled for next week. We do plan on having another round of interviews again as we continue to get a lot of these backgrounds reviewed for the next, for this June school as well. And then we're hoping to look around maybe the end of this month to the beginning of April to start sending out our conditional offers. They don't just get sent out at once. Again, they come in batches as we continue, just like we do with our interviews, as we get interviews completed. Then we also then try and send out our conditional offers now that we're getting closer to our June academy. All right, here's a question. If I will graduate in May with my bachelor's and my hiring interview is scheduled before then, will the points not be added to my hiring interview score because of this? So our commander, First Lieutenant Zook, does the scoring. And unfortunately, he's not one of our panelists to be able to give you an answer, but I would believe so. But Inspector Nemesek, would you know for sure?
I think that we take a look at it. If depending on the scoring of it, it's one of those things that you don't get credit for unless you actually have it in hand. So, I mean, I would err on the side of the fact that if you don't technically have it in hand, it wouldn't be included. But I can certainly check on that one. I'd like to, I guess, further discuss that one. It's a great question.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so if you want to go ahead and send us an email with that question to our recruiting inbox, we can go ahead and look into that a little bit further for you and then give you a more clear response. Looks like we got another question coming in. Any plans for another lateral school? With that, does the new MSP Association contract allow for any increased wages for lateral candidate at entry? All right, so this is a two-part. So I want to answer the first part about our lateral school. So at this time, we do not know when and or if we're going to have another lateral school. So our first one that's going to be starting here in March is our first one that we've ever done here at the Michigan State Police. I'd probably be within a year before that gets considered again. Ultimately, our colonel and higher members decide make those decisions regarding lateral schools. We also want to note that we do not want to try and take too many of our local police departments and take officers from them. Obviously, you can always still apply to us and do our regular recruit school. Obviously, the lateral would be more efficient and better for our currently qualified, already MCOL certified officers doing a shorter school rather than the longer 24 to 26 week school. But at this time, we do not have any plans for or do not have any information regarding when or if we're going to have another lateral school. Inspector Nemesek, do you want to answer the second part of the question about regarding the MSPTA, I believe, contract allowing for increased wages for lateral entry candidates?
Sure. And I guess on both those, I am a strong supporter of a lateral school. And I know that we're kind of stepping outside our comfort zone when we were trying this, having worked for another agency for a number of years and then having to go through the entire process. I definitely see benefit in it. So I am hoping in the fact that we do run more lateral schools. We've been working on several marketing plans and communication issues that we've had to get that out there, because I still think that maybe some people were in disbelief in the length of the school, and there's still a lot of questions that we need to answer on it. But I think going forward, certainly we agree the fact that we want to run more, just I'm not sure when that is yet. Kind of to answer the second part of that, the answer is no. So you're not going to have increased wages due to prior service from another agency on those lateral entry schools. So maybe that's one thing that we should discuss at a later date, as far as a step increase for a number of, depending on how many years you've completed at another agency. I think that would definitely warrant a discussion on there, but as of right now, there is not.
All right, thank you, Inspector. So we're going to try and answer a few more questions. Looks like we have another one here. If we call that number that you gave us for the troopers, could we check on the status of our application, or we are expected to have a hiring interview for an upcoming recruit school. Yes, you are welcome to give that phone number a call. It's mainly me on the other end. So I also apologize if I don't answer. I try really hard to try and answer phone calls within that day, if not the next business day, and give you responses. You're always more than welcome to send us an email or give us a call if you want to know what the status of your application is. So go ahead and give us a call or send us an email. All right, so what is the basis of the hybrid pension? Is there anyone on our panelists that can answer that?
I can jump in and answer that one as well, Michaela. So just to kind of explain the hybrid pension, I think there's a couple fallacies that I want to get out there right away. And the first one is that the state police got rid of pensions, because that's absolutely not true. Now, it is a hybrid pension, and the hybrid pension that I've kind of talked about a little bit in the chat is the fact that it's just there's a max to the cap on it, which I think is like 35 grand. But then there's also a 401k, which there's also matching with the state. So it kind of equals out. It looks a little bit different. It's not your typical pension like anyone prior to, and I hate to give a date on this, but you know, we are split down the ranks that we have. We used to have a 60% of our last 2 years where some of our employees still fall into that. So their pension looks a little bit different, but that hybrid pension, if you get into, you'll be maxed out at a cap of what you can receive, and it doesn't include overtime. However, if you get into that 401k and take advantage of the matching and through state of Michigan Voya or anybody that you choose, it kind of washes itself out. So I don't know if that answers the question. If not, if you have a more specific question on a pension, I can certainly try to answer that. If you want to give us an email, then I could reach out directly to you to answer, kind of get the nuts and bolts of it as far as, you know, what healthcare or vision or dental or something like that. I'd be certainly able and willing to look into that for you.
All right, thank you. So I want to thank everyone for coming to our webinar on the Michigan State Police recruiting process, and to our panelists for joining me and helping me do this webinar. If there were any questions that we did not answer, you're welcome to contact us with your questions. There will also be we'll also post this webinar on YouTube at a later time. And so that way you can always come back and review. There's also going to be a little survey right after we close this out, or after you leave. If you guys could complete that survey, give us let us know what you thought about this webinar and what we could possibly do to improve. And I just want to thank you all again for coming. I really appreciate it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.